Awesome. Hey, everybody. I hope you're all having a great time. I am Kristen Spiegel. I'm the Senior Director of Strategy at Brightwave, and this is Anusha Ramachandran. I did that with Navistar. We are really excited to talk to you about the email programs of tomorrow. After this, we've mentioned the cocktails, but there's a Zen garden. I don't know if you guys knew that, and it's really nice out. The weather's perfect. This is my guy, y'all. He's not just a DJ, he's an email. He does email. Like, how email is EIQ?
Wow.
And he's been playing Outcast all day. It's good. All right, we're going to get started. Anusha is going to kick us off with the email programs of tomorrow. Do we have a clicker?
Thank you, Kristen. Is it there?
Is this it?
Is that the one?
Is this it?
I believe so.
All right, here we go.
Let's test it. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Kristen. Good evening, everyone. I think everyone here would agree it's been a great day of learning and sharing insights. So a big shout out to the Brightwave team for yet another phenomenal EIQ conference this year. My name is Anusha Ramachandran. This is my second year at EIQ. I'm really excited to be here today to share my thoughts on artificial intelligence in the world of email. You're going to hear a lot of ideas, thoughts, examples that have resonated through the day, quite frankly. But before I do that, I want to briefly introduce myself and my firm, Navistar. So I'm the Senior Customer Marketing Manager at Navistar, and we're a leading manufacturer of trucks, school buses, engines, and aftermarket parts and service solutions in North America. In the market, we're represented by our dealer network of around 1,000 locations in US and Canada. Now let's move on to talk about AI and email. Almost every urban household has one of those voice assistant devices or the conversational AI chatbots, as they're referred to as. I'm talking about the Amazon Alexas, the Google Homes, the Microsoft Cortanas of the world. And the reason I mention this is because these bots today, as we know, are already capable of reading incoming email and identifying what's important to the users. These bots are offering features and services that really help alleviate the email overload that consumers are complaining of. I think it was Laura earlier today who gave us a great demo of Alexa and kind of outlined pretty well the capabilities that they have today and don't have. But in the future, it's about skipping response altogether. It's moving to action. It's almost like saying, it's great you know what needs to be done. Now let me know when the action is complete. So features like scheduling follow-up meetings or calls or gathering research for an upcoming work call or interview call would be standard features. So if the future is about bots processing emails, what does this really mean for email marketeers like you and me? Should the focus be on creating emails that don't get deleted by these devices? Because we're surely going to have a more constrained audio canvas to grab attention and avoid deletion as the usage of these devices continue to grow. And as people move away from screens, email copy needs to work equally well, both for someone reading it or having it read to them. So if you think about it, the focus is really on the right content delivered at the right time through a time-specific preferred channel, which also means that a lot of the campaign planning and decisions can be automated using AI capabilities within email. Effortless experiences, right, or frictionless experiences, as they're called, when you talk about zero UI, they're really going to become more tailored, adaptive, and predictive because of that combination of active, passive, and situational data. And what those frictionless experiences are going to translate to is truly relevant customer experiences across different channels, whether that's social or SMS or connected vehicle or email, because now you're talking about delivering the right experience to the right user at the right time through the right channel, which will still include email. In many ways, AI makes delivery personalization a reality. I know there's been chatter in the industry around email being a luxury channel, a premium channel, where customers' email addresses are reserved for those highly relevant and highly personalized brand and content. But when you think about how these AI algorithms really work, for example, to make a decision on someone, like they like the color red, they are in market to buy a luxury SUV, so let's target them with red color luxury SUV ads. What the AI algorithm is really doing is taking personal data with some other data in a black box and spitting out an answer. Now, to get the data the AI needs, regulations like GDPR state that companies need to go get permission from users to use their personal data and tell them exactly how it's being used and guarantee it won't be used for anything else. I think almost everyone in this room knows that true consent is a little bit of a myth because most companies don't realize what's happening inside that black box. So while we're all dealing with this conflict of AI requiring more data and this heightened sensitivity and regulations around consumer data sharing practices, the capabilities of AI to be able to detect those optimization patterns and remember them and customize the delivery of those messages is really promising. Don't get me wrong, I think marketeers have come a long way and taken a lot of efforts to personalize the messages. But efforts in the direction to personalize the delivery of those messages has been sparse. And to win in the future, we are going to have to customize the delivery of those messages just like we have done with the messages themselves. And thanks to these advances in AI and machine learning, delivery personalization is becoming a reality. In many ways, AI will enable a future where almost all effective email and communication across channels is going to be triggered by an aggregation of prior online actions, known data points, and offline data points to deliver that hyper-personalized experiences. So the concepts we discussed today as being ideal, whether that's personalization or timing or contextual, it's going to be a must-do or we will fail. So finding patterns in offline and online data to understand what that user is really going to buy, or mining through social profile and interactions, or search history, or purchase history, or geolocation, thanks to smartphones. These are all veritable gold mines of consumer data. When you think about targeting, which is nothing but a subcategory of machine learning, it is precise, but it can also be contextual, which is well explained when you see serving recommended buys based on a like on a Facebook page or a product a friend bought. And when you kind of question this difference between personalization and hyper-personalization, it really boils down to the data elements they tap into. While personalization is driven off personal and transactional data, like your organization name or a purchase history, hyper-personalization is simply extending that concept out and tapping into real-time and behavioral data to deliver that highly contextual communication that's relevant to the user. I mean, predictive email is not creepy. Come on. No one gets creeped out when Amazon makes recommendations based on purchase history and profile. And Amazon is a great example of hyper-personalization. I believe the on-site, based on Amazon's on-site recommendations, the conversions are almost 60% higher as compared to other e-commerce brands. You think about Spotify's Discover weekly recommendations, and that's another great example of hyper-personalization. What's really driving those weekly recommendations are the 2 billion or so user playlists there, where each of them really is a reflection of that music fans' tastes and sensibilities. So Spotify's algorithms are making that connection between the data from those 2 billion or so playlists and your taste profile to come up with these recommendations. There was a recent Accenture study that said that 41% of US consumers are moving away from preferred brands due to lack of personalization and trust. And it got me thinking, what's really eroding the consumer trust? And I think it boils down to 3 things. First, brands are still focused on macro segmenting, or worse, mass marketing, let alone one-to-one targeting. Secondly, the user experience across channels, whether that's in an app, on a website, or in the store, it continues to be siloed. It's not unified. And third, let's all admit it, yes, contextual relevance is the end game, but very few brands deliver on it today, which explains why you see few brands like a Spotify or an Amazon or a Starbucks on that far end of the predictive personalization game. Like Starbucks is a great example of a brand that's leveraging contextual relevance to the consumer's calendar. Their happy hour messages include a add to calendar call to action button, and that calendar alert does serve as a friendly reminder, but more importantly, it creates that afternoon need for a Starbucks fix. So given the capabilities of these technologies and the prevalence of AI and machine learning, marketers really have an opportunity now to grasp that consumer attention, to deliver high quality and hyper-personalized content. Because I think we all know that attention is now the anchor for driving marketing effectiveness. So no surprises when McKinsey says that just by doing hyper-personalization, you see a 5 to 8 times return in terms of ROI on your marketing spend. Take a step back and just look at the entire new technology landscape with all the pluses and minuses. Yes, these new features and softwares, they do drive greater efficiencies, and they do give us sophisticated capabilities like the ones we've talked about all day. But they also pose a really interesting challenge for IT and marketing leaders everywhere. And the truth is that given the growing complexity of these technologies, it's become challenging to build a robust marketing technology stack. And the one thing that's growing even faster than the MarTech solutions out there is the volume of consumer data. So when you think about it, that competitive advantage really exists at the intersection of data science, technology, people, and deep business expertise. To unlock the value of AI, it has to be applied in the ways of working and the processes, and really applied where it matters. Because we all have to admit it, humans simply cannot replicate the degree of constant learning and optimization at the same pace. But when a technology like AI is applied the right way, it's going to free up our time to think more strategically. So in conclusion, while I don't think in 2019 you and me are getting replaced by robots anytime soon, I do think we will continue to see more AI-powered use cases and solutions that's going to hopefully help us better anticipate consumer needs and truly design and deliver more consumer-focused integrated experiences. Thank you so much, and I hope you all have a great evening.
Thank you so much, Anusha. So guys, I'm all that stands in between you and the cocktails, so I promise to make this interesting. Like I said earlier, I am Kristen Spiegel. I'm the Senior Director of Strategy at Brightwave, and I am really excited to talk to you about something that I'm super passionate about. Actually, my whole family is kind of passionate about it, but oh wait, I forgot who said this. That's me. These are my kids, Peyton and Parker. Good luck figuring out which name goes with which kid. So first, before I get into this, a quick show of hands. Who here has heard of pervasive computing? Anyone? No? All right, cool. That's what I was looking for. Embedded internet? What about Internet of Things? All right, there we go. Look, I had slides. Great, excellent. So everybody's heard of Internet of Things, right? Great. Quick definition, IoT ecosystem is a bunch of smart devices that are all connected. They use sensors to identify things about their environment and then alter their response or change based on what they're taking in, so they're acting on that data. And that central piece, the little cloud sort of represented there, is the hub, which is actually collecting and aggregating all of that data and either analyzing it locally or sending it to the cloud for analysis. So my husband and I are really all in on IoT. These are just a few of our devices. I couldn't even sum them all up, but we have a lot. I like to say that my house greets me when I get home, and it really does. Smartwatches, thermostats, everybody's got a Nest, right? But a lot of these devices already have an email component. For example, Nest will send you that monthly home report, and I even have a scale, a biometric scale that will send me monthly sort of recap, and it always says I need to drink some water. But so these are all things that are happening right now. But we're here to talk about the future of email, right? So going back to that hub that connects everything, all of these devices connect to that one central point. So it's really kind of the brains of the operation, if you will. It could theoretically connect your gas meter, your thermostat, your Windows sensors, light bulbs, you name it. It brings all of that together, and when you combine that with data from your bed, your Keurig, your whatever other connected devices you have in your house, you're able to start to get to a really, really comprehensive and clear profile of a subscriber. And it's easily, I think we can all agree, the most comprehensive profile of a subscriber that we've been able to access to date. So the more devices that we connect, I'm going to hit you with some stats real quick. The more devices that we connect, of course, the more we can refine and analyze that profile. 83 million connected devices were shipped to homes in 2015, and they predicted 193 million in 2020. Well, that number changed, and now we're looking at 31 billion, actually, in 2020. a lot of connected devices. There was a report from the FTC that said that fewer than 10,000 smart homes can generate over 150 million data points in a single day. So that's a ton of data about the people that are using these devices. And so as I was thinking through this, I was thinking, wow, that's a lot of devices. That's a lot of, they're all different brands and this and that. That's a lot of email preferences, right? Like that's a whole lot of preferences to manage. But what if that hub sort of became that central management, that central notification management center? And it wasn't just email. It would obviously include email. But going back to sort of the right channel piece that Anusha mentioned earlier, it would allow you to say, one central device processing data from a variety of inputs across brands, devices, hardware, you name it, and we're able to control and manage what sort of notifications we receive, what channels we're receiving them in. There's like a monthly home report that I like to think of. So Nest sends the thermostat home report, but imagine like a monthly home report that you're getting from your whole house. It's all of these pieces coming together and saying like, hey, here's what we're noticing. That would be an excellent email, right? But if you've ever had a water intrusion issue at home, you know that a sensor that identifies that's not an email, that's a push notification, and it's like a really aggressive one. I hope nobody's ever experienced that I have. So speaking of push, I've always loved how email's like the pull opposite of push, right? They're both providing really relevant information about or from a brand that you've opted into or have a relationship with, right? But email is not obtrusive. It's just there when you need it. It's, I don't like the word passive, but it's there when you need it. It doesn't demand your attention at any specific point in time. And that's part of, I think, what makes email special is that we have some degree of control over how and when we interact with it, right? We have some modicum of control over who emails us and about what and how often, not full control, obviously. But, and for IoT, this is really, really important because not all channels are equal, right? So Anusha was telling us about the future of email and an intelligent and omni-channel world, and that right message, right person, right time, right channel dream is really close to reality now. So I'm going to take you through a few examples of how I see IoT working with email. So imagine parents with a child who has type 1 diabetes, which is terrifying, right? Probably constant worry from these parents. But what if that child had an insulin pump that could share information with the parents? Some sort of IoT insulin pump that maybe it just sends a daily recap to the parents and the doctor because it's really valuable information, and it gives them test times and test results and identifies trends and such. It's really valuable information, so it's great to have. It sets everybody's mind at ease. Parents can be confident that their children are out in the world, but it's not like critical information that needs to happen like in any specific point in time. So email is a really great channel for it. But what if that child has a critical situation? What if that pump identifies that critical situation? What happens then? Well, that device could look at factors like where is the parent and what's going on around them and alter the notification based off of those factors. So let's say the parent's out shopping and they've got their phone and their smartwatch on them, but everything's set to silent. We could override those volume controls and get the notification to them, make sure that it happens immediately. But what if they're not? What if they're at home and they don't have their phone on them, they don't have their watch on them, the dishwasher is running, the laundry's going, because these are all smart devices, so we know it, right? Alexa hears that the dog is barking. Just so much going on, it's crazy. What happens then? And I like to think of the entire house broadcasting the alert. So some devices are turned off entirely. The dishwasher is turned off. Others are repurposed. The TV is repurposed to deliver that message visually, audibly, maybe even physically in the form of like a wearable tech that gives a squeeze or a shock or something like that. So I think this is just really exciting stuff, and I can't wait to see this become a reality. To bring it back to email really quickly, I always like the idea of my car emailing. Who here names their cars? Does anyone name their cars? Right. I've named all of my cars. Actually, and I didn't even tell Hassan this, he doesn't even know this, but I named all my cars after Outkast songs in some way. And so I really cannot wait for the day when Jazzy Belle, my current car, this is not my car, by the way, but when Jazzy Belle emails me and tells me that she needs new tires. super, super, it's probably going to be my favorite use of first name personalization ever, where she shows up in my inbox. It'll be great. Some cars already have this ability, right? But imagine if your mechanic could include like a little paid spot or something like that to allow you to even use interactive elements to schedule your maintenance right from the inbox. And obviously, there's a ton of retail applications as well. Tons of brands spend a lot of time on app development, but what if they just sent me an email when I was in the grocery store, identified where I was using beacons, data from my fridge, obviously my purchase history, and the email almost becomes the app. It could walk me through and give me recommendations in real time, and even a step beyond real time. I like to think of it as moment specific. So it's real time, but it's offering solutions to that customer's unique needs in the very moment that they're in. But I don't really like going to the grocery store, I'm going to be honest. If anyone uses Kroger's ClickList, it's amazing. Huge advocate. I couldn't even tell you the last time I set foot inside of one, but I still have to go through and curate the order and go and look in my fridge and see, like, what do I have? And it's, it still takes some time to do that inventory and create the order. So I can't wait for the day when my fridge shares that information with Kroger, and Kroger's like, oh, hey, we see that you probably need to place an order. Maybe they offer to place it for me, and I just have to click something to get that order submitted. And then I really love the idea of it having some sort of paid content from a restaurant, local restaurants that it knows I like, and those restaurants are saying hey, free delivery, or here's today's specials, kids eat free, whatever it may be. So I can have my order placed in the email, and in that same email make a reservation for dinner tonight, because my fridge is letting everybody know that hey, you need to feed your family and you can't with what's here. So he knows. So email as a paid channel is kind of crazy. I've mentioned that a couple of times, but a little scary maybe, but I don't think that it changes all of the things that make email really special to us and to consumers. It stays opt-in, and I still have to authorize brands to email me and to share that data. And I think that the idea of email as a paid channel or having more paid elements could really sort of be that catalyst to drive decision makers to prioritize relevance and personalization over time, because if they've got to pay to get their email in your inbox, it needs to be good, right? And I don't want to overlook the fact that security concerns are really rampant. Every single one of these devices is a new potential breach point. So it's an issue, but most of us, a lot of us, have already accepted this new reality. I've told you, I'm all in on IoT. I love this stuff. In fact, 4 years ago, my husband and I had our first child, Peyton. He's the boy. I'll go ahead and give that away. And we had this app where we logged everything the child did. It was obsessive almost. And anytime he slept, ate, diaper changes, contents, you name it, it was all in this. So all of this data that I had to manually collect. So it was really laborious to constantly log all of that. But it was cool to have all of that data. And so 4 years later, last summer, we had our second, a girl, Parker. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm logging all of this again. So we're going through the same activity, logging all of this data. It's taking forever. My husband hates it because I'm like, did you log her? Did you turn off her sleep timer or whatever? But I can't tell you how many nights at 3 a.m. I was exporting that on my phone, pivoting, analyzing, trying to figure out when am I going to get more than 2 hours of sleep. It turns out she just doesn't sleep. But I really was excited about the day. I was thinking, man, if the crib could just do this for me. I want the crib to email me trends and say hey, looks like Parker's sleeping a little longer, something like positive motivation, Anusha, this is coming positive motivation that there's an end in sight. You're going to get some more sleep. So I've always liked that example. But I think we can all agree that the benefits for brands and consumers alike with IoT are endless. More data means stronger customer relationships, predictive maintenance, and it really is going to enable that major shift in customer experience, where we can move from that reactive to preventative sort of model. It's going to drive customer loyalty, lifetime value. Of course, it's going to have an impact on email, our beloved email channel, because email is central to every one of these devices today, right now. So ultimately, the world of connected devices means more data, like so much more data, but consumers are smart and they have an idea, right, of what we have available to us, even if they don't know how much we have available to us. And so they expect that personalized experience. We've all talked about that. 10 years ago, Sims pointed this out in his office the other day, said 10 years ago, people were sending one email to everybody, right? It was happening, that's what everyone was doing, one email, one message to your entire audience. And people are not okay with that now. I think we all know that, right? So what's it gonna look like 10 years from now? As we started to collect all of that data, we, consumers and we as consumers understood that we deserved a more relevant and personalized experience. So with the world of IoT, that expectation is going to increase. They're going to expect even more, knowing that we have more data available to us. So it's really, really important. I think that the thing to take away from this part is that it's critical to inventory that data and, oops, sorry, wrong button. To inventory that data and make sure that you get it in one central location so that you can connect all of those data sources and make it actionable. If it's in a million different places, obviously, there's not too much you can do with it. So I've given you a ton of examples of how I see the future of IoT, and I want to point out that devices learning from their environments is not, it's not a future state. It's happening right now, but only in isolation. Each device talks to itself, learns from its environment. Maybe a couple of them speak to one another within a brand or something. But the future is really all of these devices working together, coming together in concert to deliver that new experience. I think that we can all agree that whoever has access to this data has a clear advantage in the marketplace, right? How does it all come together? I don't know. Sorry if you came for that answer. I don't have it for you yet. But that's the future part. We can be certain that it will happen. 10 years ago, like I said, one email to everybody. Now people expect more. They expect us to be more relevant. This is a massive influx of data. So we need to be ready for it, to be ready to aggregate it, put it in one place, make it actionable, so that we can have all of these devices working together in concert to provide those hyper-relevant communications. An entire new industry was born in the form of programmatic advertising, right? And it was hinged on the ability to collect and exchange data and create that more relevant and timely advertising. So why shouldn't that happen with IoT? And why shouldn't email take a really central role in the application of that data? I hope this gave you guys some cool, fresh ideas for how this might work in the future. If I can leave you with just one thing, it's that the future of email has really never been brighter. It's intelligent, it's omni-channel. There's this huge influx of customer data that we've never had access to before. So it's really exciting times for us, I think. So thanks so much. And if you want to talk more about IoT, come find me. The cocktails are next. Thanks, everybody.